Okay, right.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, this is our discussion on purpose. And I'm going to give the Google Dictionary breakdown of purpose, which is the reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists.
Okay.
So, that being said, do we believe that we actually have a purpose, individual purpose?
Okay. So my rational mind says that it's a kind of trick to make us feel discombobulated, like confused, because I feel like having a purpose that contradicts being a part of the matrix kind of throws you off whatever it is that is supposed to be. So, for example, my purpose, I believe my purpose is to reach a higher level of ascension so that I can become an ancestor rather than being even reincarnated to come back here to do it all again. However, that being a purpose contradicts what being here on earth is trying to force me to achieve, if that makes sense. It's almost like I'm always on a balancing act to living out my purpose. And so it's not necessarily that I don't believe I have a purpose. I feel like it's kind of like I would like to have a different purpose than what I've been born into believing or what should be the reality.
So what do you feel your purpose is then? If we break it down, because I know you're speaking on more of a macro level, if we break it down to a bit more micro in terms of, as you were saying, in terms of, kind of just an operation on the earth, do you feel like
I think my purpose is to become an ancestor, become an angel, become something else, other than being here, manifesting in a human form again. Yeah, that's what I think it is.
Okay.
And living, fucking hell, because my purpose is to kind of ascend and help others ascend. That's my purpose. So, but I feel like I said, I feel like being a part of the matrix and being in this society, that's just totally contradicts. So it kind of makes me like, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? Because how do I survive with that as a belief?
So that being
said.
Okay, so that being said, because I feel like you've got a disconnect to that, because I feel like what you're explaining is there's kind of a conflict, shall we say? So that being said, that brings me on to another question, which is, is purpose necessary as a life motivation to encourage drive and activity?
Yeah, it is. Because if you don't have a belief, if you don't have hope, if you don't have a belief system, then that's your survival mechanism. Otherwise, if people who don't believe or feel like they have a purpose, they'll just commit suicide. Do you get what I mean? So it is. However, what the issue is the belief that you have a truth or not? So, for example, if you're Christian, and then that's your belief and that's your driving force and that's what's keeping you going, that's what's helping you survive. And then someone comes along and shows you loads of conspiracy theories and starts convincing you that actually Islam is the thing, then it throws you off your purpose. So then you have to make that your new purpose.
I hear you. Yeah.
So it is, you do have to have a purpose in order to survive. My thing is, how do you make your purpose become your thriving tool? Because, hey, Shay, you okay?
That's Shez.
Oh, Shez, hey, Shez. Did she hear us?
Don't
know what she's doing.
Hello? Connie, you turn your mic on, love.
Turn your microphone.
Hello.
Josh wants to say something,
Can I just say a quick thing?
Yeah. Contribute, Josh. Happy to have you, mate.
Hello.
Hey, Shay.
Hey, Shay.
You're right. Sorry, I was just sorting out the audio.
All right, love. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you guys too.
Sorry, Josh. Can you come into the camera, please, so we can see who was
He's not going to come in because you're recording.
I'm camera shy.
And oh yeah, sorry, I got my headscarf on at my own.
Listen, it's a yard day. I can tell you.
Oh yeah.
I'm clean and moisturised. That's all you need.
That's right.
That's right. Can you say something anyway? Go on, baby.
Yeah, she did ask the question, I believe, was, do we have a purpose? Is that what you said?
What was the last question, Leash?
The last one was, is purpose necessary as a life motivation to encourage drive and activity? And also, prior to that, Josh, I did say, do you specifically feel like you have a purpose? Because that's an individual question.
Yeah. Well, I would kind of tie the two. Well, basically, I believe yes. There has to be a purpose, because basically the bottom line is whether you was a creator or a person who's going to be the consumer, you're always going to have to work out, is something going to be purpose or a non-purpose, and everything that we believe in create has to be for a purpose, because your mind has to kind of discover what could be like invented to create a purpose to make something better. Do you understand that? And if something is not a purpose, therefore it's a non-purpose. That means that it's not valid, really, is it? It's going to be thrown away. It's not meaning nothing to no one. It's not a value.
It's got no value.
You get what I'm saying? It's of nothing. So what I'm trying to get to is the creator wouldn't have even started to even thought to create an ant if it didn't have a purpose. Do you get what I mean?
He's the creator.
Do you get what I'm saying? So basically, everything is a link up to create for this purpose, which is the overall ending of the purpose of us actual being born to the point where we descend from this planet, or basically we die. You get what I'm saying? But we have to realize that through with living this matrix from when we're born to the end, what is the true purpose of it all? That is the overall meaning. And what she's trying to say, because we ain't guaranteed the answer, because no one's come and told us that there is a purpose why you're doing all of this and can prove to us, it leaves us in a tangle where people grip to religion, they grip to strong people, they grip to all these things for a purpose, for their end result. You understand what I'm saying? So basically, a woman will want to get with a wealthy man for a purpose that she wants to don't have to work no more for that thing. A man wants a beautiful woman for the purpose that he's got a nice woman for it. You know what I'm trying to say throughout his life? You're going to make sure your kids are okay for the purpose that they've got a good education. So all these things are not going to affect for a next purpose, for something to have another purpose. Do you understand? But we're trying to find out what is the end purpose of it all, because we know that we can't be all this exist for a non-purpose. If that was the case, it wouldn't exist, because it would all be thrown away. What's the point? You're not going to do so. Why would you build a house to live outside of it?
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So that's basically why I say it's all for a purpose. And whatever you can see as a purpose, you got to work out, is there a non-purpose to it? And if there's a non-purpose, it's just a waste of time. So everything must be more or less for a purpose. That's why someone say, if they punched you, why did you do that? There wasn't no purpose. But if they did it for a reason, everyone can justify the purpose why you did it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's as far as I think.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah.
I can't clap with one hand. I'm holding the phone.
All right, Josh, okay?
It's because I'm holding the phone with my hand.
I might as well just log off.
Get it now. That's arrive. What about Shez? What do you think about?
Sorry, two seconds, Shez. Hi, Shay. Shay's just joined us from USA.
Hey, Shay. Where's Shay?
Hi.
And baby Shay.
Hi.
Hello.
Sorry, Caleb decided to poop.
Oh.
We were getting on.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Say hi.
Hey.
Hey, baby, look at those cheeks. Oh my God.
I love you. Sorry, we got
Hi.
Sorry, focus.
Sorry, Shez. Yeah, we put you off. Sorry.
What was the question? What I believe purpose is?
No,
What was your ask? Because it was cutting out.
Do you feel like you have a purpose? Do you feel like you know what your purpose is if you do have one? And
Okay.
what Josh and Sereena kind of went a bit more macro in terms of just purpose.
Yeah.
But if you bring it down a bit more micro, do you feel like you as an individual have a purpose, and do you feel like you know what your purpose is?
I think I probably could only answer it like from a macro perspective. I believe that everybody has a purpose, but it's whether you're in tune to it or not. And I think there's a lot of societal factors that almost sway people away from what, in my opinion, probably is their innate purpose. So I think it's something that we're all like born. It's part of our chemistry, the way we're wired. But I think it takes time. And I guess for me personally, it took a lot of self-analysis to truly identify what my purpose was versus what I'm good at. Because there's a lot of skills or things that we do that can bring about like positive change, but at the same time, it may not be like your innate purpose. So I feel like I'm at a place now. I've been in a place for, I would only say the past few years, really, where I would say that I truly tuned into what my purpose is. And I guess if I describe it tangibly, it's generally stuff that unlocks, I guess, people's perspectives on things. Like, so my job, as in not my physical job, but my job is in my purpose, is a lot about shaping and unlocking perspectives. So in its simplest form, we could all look at something, and based on the way we were, I know you agree with me as well. You agree? Oh, good.
I'm gonna sorry, I'm gonna mute so he doesn't interrupt.
But like, so for example, we could all look at something and we might see it in a specific way based on, you know, our makeup, our society, like the environment we've been nurtured in. But a lot of stuff or work that I do would create things that enable people to look at things from all perspectives, because ultimately, if our eyes were open to everything, then we would see it that way. But because of the way our life or lifestyles are, there's a lot of blockages. So part of my purpose, I guess, is about unlocking some of those blockages and opening paths and perspectives on things. And that's why I said I can only answer it like on I guess from a macro perspective, in the sense that I can't talk about specific things I do because it taps into a lot of things that I do. But I know the choices I make and the things that I create or get involved in all align to what my purpose is. I know why I'm doing them. Okay. And that's a good, for me personally, that's been a really good space to play in, because it really ensures that everything I do is for a reason. I think sometimes, and again, only speaking from my personal experiences, there's a lot of opportunities that I've had and things I've pursued, but they haven't always aligned to my purpose. And that's because I wasn't truly clear on what that was because of certain blockages. But now that I am, it just makes life a lot more positive and fulfilling.
Okay, awesome. That's good.
Thank you.
The next question I was going to ask, and which actually ties into something you just said, was, can you identify behaviour in another individual that suggests that they are not living their purpose or they don't know their purpose?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's what you see someone's talent. When
you kind of, you know, like, for example, I'd say like my son then, for example, I can see that he's discovering himself. He's got different talents, but he doesn't know which one to kind of harness and focus on. So he's in a space where he's trying different things to see how those different things make him feel, or, you know, align with who he thinks that he is. So yeah. And also when my clients come to me, I can hear that their complaints are actually boil down to the fact that they're not in alignment with their purpose. So they're losing life energy or motivation for life itself because they don't feel like they're aligned with their purpose.
Right.
Right. So
yeah, I'd agree with that. I agree with that.
Side effects of not living your purpose would be, you know, people who are continuously questioning life or themselves, always asking why they need to do things, rather than, you know, there's more whys than actionable behavior. So that's one that stands out for me a lot.
And I can say for myself, because the reason why I even asked this question in the first place, it was because of how I was feeling. Basically, I took a moment to kind of think about things. It was a few months ago when I suggested this, and it was the space where I was I somewhat felt like on a more micro level, not on a macro level, because I know I'm so
that's all right.
And everything. On a micro level, I was feeling like, or use that on my friends, so you all know the space I was in before I had Judah. It was very much everything I'm doing. I felt very fulfilled within myself as an individual. So I was in a space of everything I'm doing in terms of my business, etc., is for my unborn children. And then fast forward in time, and I had Pudge. So then obviously that then shifts to everything I'm doing is for Pudge. And then he left. So then it was like the space where I was when I suggested this meeting was, everything I'm doing is for what? You know what I mean? Oh, how rude. I'm so sorry. You know, so that's what even started this, because I've always been a very purposeful person, as you all know. I'm very driven, and I'm about this life type of thing. And, you know, this is a transition that I've had to personally go through, losing my son, because it's like, after him being gone and after actually digesting it and everything, I'm like, what am I doing this for? Like, you know, and I'm not talking about life. I mean, just in terms of just the fight to be successful, the fight to get through this life, the fight to obtain material things. It was like, I put a lot on that in terms of, that's all for my child. So then when he was gone, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, even though I've never been a person who's just going to sit down in the bed and do nothing, I finally started to see how that can happen to people, because it's like, what for? You know what I mean?
If you don't mind if I interject there. So my son had a bit of issues about 2 days ago, and I had to kind of come out of mommy mode and think about what was really going on, what was my issue with him. And on reflection, I realized that my issue was that I live to impress him and other people. However, me impressing him wasn't being appreciated. So for example, I cook for my kids to impress them. If my boyfriend invites me out for a meal or whatever, I would dress to impress him. You know, even in terms of being successful, I am trying to impress my friends and, you know, make you lot know that, you know, I'm about this life, you know. There's a lot of, but with him, it was like my impressing wasn't a marker for my success within whatever it is I'm trying to achieve. So in terms of my child, I'm trying to achieve being a good parent and being a successful parent, but the impressive wasn't appreciated. So my point is that when you ain't got no one to impress and no one appreciates what you're doing for self, even, you start to think, well, what am I doing it for? Because there's no one to impress. I'm not doing it for nobody. So I explained that to him. I wrote him a letter and I said, you know, when I buy you a coat, I'm impressing you. I'm saying, look at this, what I've got for you. And then you're going to go and swap your coat with your friend. And it makes me feel funny. It don't make me feel like you appreciated what I'm doing for you, you know? Not that you give to return or anything like that, but there is an element of impressing, and that's what makes me know that I'm my life purpose.
So that being said, then, because you've kind of focused on one thing, which is, you said impress, whereas for me, in terms of what I just said, it's not so much impress, because I don't care to impress my children. My stance was more on legacy. So my thing was legacy to, you know, pass on.
Yeah. All right then. So
to impress.
So
his purpose more than we're saying is breaking it down to more like a singular focus. Then that being said, because even though our focuses were different, it's still a singular focus. Would purpose more be tied up in something like that? Then is that what we're saying?
In what?
I would agree with that. I think because a lot, like me and you talk about, well, we have leash in the past. A lot of, because okay, sorry, I'm going off, but you remember when you used to always say to me, like, Shereen, why don't you just tell people what you do, or why don't you? And I'd be like, because I just do it, and because I get fulfillment in different ways.
Yeah.
So like, I guess when I consider the work that I do, it is very understated. I don't really shout about it, and in certain elements, and I do take on what Alicia says, I should, because part of that is the legacy bit and making people realize, oh, for example, people who may look like me, I could do that too. Sorry, just to give you some context. So I used to do a lot of ghostwriting and producing and things behind the scenes, essentially. So I've got credited for a lot of work I've done, but unless you, I guess, work in that field or you've come into contact with me working in that space, you wouldn't know, oh, rah, she wrote that, or no ways, like she put together the budget for that figure thing or whatever it was, because the work I do isn't necessarily the forefront. I'm not a director, for example. I'm not a cinematographer, you understand? So, but that being said, it never bothered me because of going back to me understanding my why, because I knew the changes it was making internally. And a lot of that led me towards the coaching internally. So I do a lot of coaching in my field. So, and I can speak on many case studies of individuals, especially Black males I've done a lot of coaching with, and Black females as well, that have gone on and done great things, not just career-wise, but lifestyle-wise for themselves around their purpose and their personal growth. But a lot of that wasn't necessarily, I never felt, and that's probably because I don't have children as well, but I've never felt like it's ever been to show and impress someone. Not that that's a bad thing, because sometimes doing it to impress people can motivate you as well. Do you see what I mean? But for me, from my perspective, it was definitely more about ensuring that I could go to sleep at night knowing, yeah, I've made some positive change in that space. So, for example, I would do a piece of work with someone. I did this a few months ago. Somebody had written a script and I did some script editing for them. And we got it to a space now where it's just being funded for a pilot. And it's a pilot with a big broadcaster. Now, that's not, so that person was like, oh, do you want me to bring you along the journey? And do you want me to get, no, because I've done that's what I was there to do. I've done my bit. And you don't understand how much joy and fulfillment that gives me, because I'm just visualizing this man and thinking, you don't even know your trajectory, where you're about to go with this, and I can visualize it, I can see it, and that within itself brings me fulfillment, because I know I've met and done my purpose.
Don't you think that the fact you fulfilled about the fact that you impressed the people who are now funding the pilot? You impressed them.
No, they don't know I was involved in it. So that's
whether they know or not, they're clearly impressed at the fact that this thing is there, regardless who put it there, created it or whatever. It's something that we can work with. So that makes you know that you achieved that. Not necessarily that they even need to know that you did it, but the fact that they appreciate what you did, whether you're in the background or not, is what gives you motivation, and that makes you know, oh, I'm on my life purpose and I should continue what I'm doing.
To a certain extent, I think I guess the best way to describe, so that's part of it, I guess, when you've mentioned that now, I can see it. The main bit for me that gives me the fulfillment is, and I can physically always see when it happens, it's when you see that shift in someone. And for that particular individual, it was like I could see that for the first time, he realized that he could really, really, you know, tap into this gift that he has. And he also realizes the potential positive impact that gift could, pursuing that gift could have. Because, like, you know, like most creatives, he has, you know, he's got jobs to keep the lights on and to pay the rent and stuff. But that the fulfillment for me was physically seeing that turning point in him, when, you know, that spark in someone where you're like, rah, oh my, I could actually do this. That was the bit that did it for me. And the cherry on the top for me was, he got the pilot. That was the cherry on top to say, yeah, great. But for me, just that bit of him knowing, right, if I really tap in and really, really dedicate myself to this thing, then I would actually be doing what I know I'm supposed to be here to do. That's the bit that brings me joy.
That's the energy I get from you. I think it's because I know you're an individual as well. Sheds that I know that that's your motivation more than coffee show.
But
What? Okay, then. So I don't know. Okay, so why is it that? What's with the word, like, I don't know, maybe the word impress is got a negative stigma around it, because I
think it's a bit higher than appreciation, you know what I mean? They're not one in the same, they're different levels. That's all.
But I think everybody's purpose, though, since we don't live, you know, in isolation of ourselves, I think everybody's purpose is involved in some type of relationship with someone else. And so that effect that you have on that person, whether it's impressing them or whether they feel appreciated about it, I think that's always tied to purpose. I think the notion of trying to impress someone does have kind of a negative things, like, oh, well, no, I don't care, you know, what you think or whatever. So, but I definitely agree, though, with you, Sereena, that because my thing is, I'm a fixer. I like fixing things, if it's people or problems or whatever. And that's kind of my purpose. And there's some other things linked to that. And then there's also, with me personally, there's some fear surrounding just blockages that I have that hinders me from doing that, I guess, 100% or completely. But for me, that kind of impression or that appreciation, or however you want to describe it, that's definitely a part of why I do a lot of things that I do. And it's not to say that I'm disingenuous, you know, like I'm only doing it to impress them. It's just to say I do get that self-satisfaction, that kind of I guess that kind of yes from the universe when I do get that response from people that I'm doing things for, or that I'm working with, or whatever. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure where the conversation started or what I missed. Sorry, I was late. But
you're on track,
that's just kind of like I definitely get and agree with that kind of impression type of thing, because I don't think that I don't feel good if I do something for someone and they just don't think anything about it.
It hasn't created that shift within them, what you intended it to create.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, you know, I guess I won't do that again for you. And then also there's sometimes I do things for people that I would want someone to do for me. And I don't know if you guys were on the love language conversation, but it's kind of related to that as well. It's like things that I do for people speak to me in a different way than it speaks to them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of also a hurdle when it comes to my purpose and relating to people and those sorts of things.
Yeah, because I think like for me, I'm for me in my life at the moment, I'm looking at my purpose and what are the signals that say to me that I'm on my purpose. Do you get what I mean? And if I'm just in my house on my own, not interacting with anybody, I'm not living my purpose. That's a form of depression. But if I'm out there interacting with people, doing what I believe or think that they need, and I'm expressing my talents to elevate them, and I can see that's having a positive effect on them, that's a marker for me to know that I'm living my purpose. So, for example, throughout my life, I've had to very much be self-motivated and impress myself and appreciate myself because of the lack of paternal figures in my life. So, for example, when I don't know, passed an exam or achieved a qualification, I very much have had to only tune into myself for that appreciation and impress myself, because I wasn't getting that feedback from my mum or my dad or my sisters or whoever. So then I've got a different level of strength, I guess, than some people, because I've learned to impress myself, so to speak, because fundamentally that's what I'm doing, and that's my marker and that's my motivation. However, as I've got older and at this stage of my life, and it's something that I have honed in on in 2018 and plan to build on in 2019, is, you know, sharing that focus where I'm around people who rate me, you know, people who appreciate me, so that I don't have to be my driving force for myself, because it's quite fucking boring, to be honest. Sorry, you know me, I've got a bit of a swearing mouth. But yeah, just being around people who appreciate me so I can do for them, which is also in alignment with me doing for me, and they're fueling me as well, you know. So my life energy is not just coming from myself, it's coming from the external factors as well.
Okay.
I guess I think I've kind of I can relate to that, like in the sense that I think it is really important to have like a positive circle. Like, you know, some people have like a sisterhood, or you'll have like, you know, male and female friends that you can confide in or vent to or share ideas with, or share, you know, achievements with, things you're happy about. And I guess that's something I've always ensured that I've had. It's interesting you talk about like that paternal perspective, because I guess I never really thought about the importance of it, because I definitely had a lot of strong male role models in my life from a young age, and I think that definitely played into a lot of my more alpha confidence. Like, do you know what I mean? So, for example, the industry I work in, you know, it's a majority male. Like, not because I chose that, but as in, well, the main job that I have, I should say, it's male dominated basically. But I've never felt intimidated by that, and I've never felt like I needed to emulate their behaviour either, because I've always felt comfortable.
I know you're a cinematographer, but what do you do in your main job, if you don't mind sharing?
I work in IT, so I work as an IT technical training specialist. So a lot of analysis, and I identify like if an organisation, for example, are going to change the way they work digitally, then we have to look at what software and things are required. So I have lots of conversations with IT professionals who tend to be men, and from my observations, and a lot of the women in IT that I speak to, we've got like what we call a WIT, Women in IT sort of sister circle. And a lot of the challenges for a lot of those women have always been feeling inferior and feeling intimidated because they're, for example, spoken over or overlooked in meetings or on decisions that drive things forward. But I've never really felt that part. And I think a lot of that has come from sort of that nurturing and ensuring that when I leave that work environment, I've got that support mechanism in place so that I can share my happy times and my issues or challenges with, and gain sort of advice or just the energy that fuels me to be able to deal with it on an ongoing basis. And I'm glad I work in that space, because, you know, you need that representation, and some of the decisions some of these software developers would make if it was just white males in the room is shocking. And that's being, you know, when you think about machine learning and, you know, like artificial intelligence, the way that they program like algorithms and things to make decisions on things, like if you don't get that representation, then it's going to be from one perspective. So you're right, and I do agree. I never really thought about it like that, but you've just made me, and I'm going to tell them thank you when I'm meeting my friends on Monday. you don't realize how powerful that is, and it really truly is.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, shifting that kind of that shifting it from person to person, from dynamics to dynamics. So, for example, I spent a lot of my life looking to my mom, my dad's absent, looking to my mom for that gratification, that marker to know that I'm living my purpose, so to speak. And it was totally ignored, rather than looking for other spaces to get that kind of assurance from. So also that as well. I mean, people aim to impress Allah, people aim to impress the ancestors, people aim to impress their parents, children, partners, husbands, and things like that. It's a shared impressing circle, as well as impressing it yourself as well. So, all right, then, for example, if you're going to manifest something, how do you know that the universe has blessed you with that? It's the way that it's manifested. So, you know, I would light my candles, and then I'll ask the ancestors for something or spirit for something, and then it manifests, and then I'm like, yeah, that means spirit said I can have it. That's a yes kind of thing. You know, if it didn't come, then I would feel like it's a no. So how do we mark her? How do we mark her if we're on our life purpose, and if our markers or those who are supposed to give us that signal are not giving us that signal, then how do we navigate that?
I always follow intuition. I always just follow my intuition, like what feels right, and then sometimes if I'm still unsure, you know, I'll pray on it, and then if I'm still unsure, I'd share it, like I said, with that same circle of trust, so to speak. But
yeah,
you know, in most instances, it's always definitely been, you know, my intuition. What you just, well, I shouldn't say you just, like, I just always know, I just feel whether this is if this is right for me, because there's lots of things that are right, but you have to know whether it's right for you as well. But yeah, I think it's a few elements of, like, is prayer, that positive circle, and intuition as well.
So even going back to what you said, Alicia, if you're like, so for example, because Pooja's not here now, you know, that's created a shift in your purpose, so to speak.
Yeah.
So how have you now, are you looking for a new marker to what is it? All right, then, are you finding it hard now to know what your purpose is because Pooja's gone?
It's had to go through a shift.
Okay.
So I put so much up until him leaving. There was my purpose. A lot of it was tied into my children. So, as I said, it was my unborn children. Then my child was born, so then it was on him, and then my child left, so then it was left with Blair. So I've had to shift from Blair to something now, and yeah, I do need a new marker. And it's a case of, because you know I'm a planner, and now we're at the beautiful top of the year. I've planned the whole year type of thing, so I've got focuses. I've got things to do. Can't say it's a purpose, but I've got things to do. You know what I mean? It's a journey, it's a transition. And I'm just being candid with you guys, because obviously a lot of the time people are always like, oh, how are you? I'm all right. I am all right, but you know what I mean? But to get into the depth of the impact of what has happened to me, this is me kind of compartmentalizing it and sharing, you know, these little compartments. And it's things that people would never even thought about. And probably other people who have gone through what I'm going through probably haven't even thought about themselves in that previous thing themselves, you know what I mean?
Shay, can you mute your thing, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I love baby, but baby's making noise.
you know what I mean? So, you know, so as much as it's a revelation for myself, I think the thing that's probably good for the people who are around me and good for the wider world when I start getting out there and talking is the fact that I can go deep with certain things, and I can go deep with myself. And because I'm constantly self-analysing, this is something that it became quite apparent to me. You know what I mean? So right now, I've got things to do, shall we say. I'm busy myself with things to do, but in terms of, yeah, I still have my macro purpose in terms of, as you know, I'm always costing. I'm like, I'm not coming back to this earth. I am about ascension. Yeah, reincarnating right back here. You know what I mean? Like that's still the overall purpose. Like Alicia is not returning. You know what I mean? But in terms of my purpose, in terms of operating through this world, so obviously the smaller purpose, it's not, I don't have it, just to be honest with you, I don't have it at the moment. I had it up until that day, and since the 28th.
Yeah, because I get what you're saying, Lish, because for me, my motivation to writing my book is it's for the purpose, or books, is for the purpose of my great grandchildren being able to read those books. So if they have issues or they want to know something or whatever, they can read that knowledge, and they can respect the fact that one of their family members created that content. Now, if that was to be taken away from me, what would my purpose be now?
Yeah. So you get
it. I totally get you.
You get it, yeah.
Because, and I'm even actually thinking, is it a stable datum? Because what happens if, God forbid, something happened to my children, then I'm not procreating. So if there's no procreation, then that's no longer my purpose, and now I have to find a new path. And what would that be? So really, it's not a stable cognition to be living through that as a purpose.
Yeah.
With, obviously, like you said, you've got the whole wider spectrum of things where it's about ascension and we're not going to do a moon cycle again, we're not reincarnating. But I'm just looking at my purpose now, and I'm like, that's not actually a stable datum. It's not a datum, as in datum means cognition or mindset. It's not a stable mindset, because when something happens to question that, it will send me into a confusion. And what am I going to do? It's like you're saying that your mother-in-law is a horrible person, and then because you had a partner whose mother-in-law was horrible, and then you meet a new partner and their mother-in-law is actually nice. That wasn't a stable datum that all mother-in-laws are horrible, is it? Because now you datum, your cognition, your mindset is now in question, but that's what you were surviving off this whole time.
Right.
Or the same mother-in-law gives you 10 grand to help you pay some debts, even though she was horrible before. Do you know what I mean? That's not a stable datum. So it's about creating stable datums around our life purpose, really, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think though a part of it.
Go on, Shay. Hello, your mic.
On mute, Shay. It's on mute.
You can finish. It's fine.
No, I said it's on mute, sweetheart. It's not now.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Go on, baby.
I think well, hold on, I lost it now. What was I gonna say? Oh, yeah. So my perspective, I guess, on relationships are a little bit different than the norm. And so it's not that my connections are weaker, it's just I feel that my understanding is a little different. So my purpose isn't necessarily connected to my offspring or different just people around me, like my immediate family, whatever, because I feel that I'm in isolation within my immediate circle as far as them understanding those types of things. I haven't found, I guess, a close-knit circle of people like that I see on a daily basis or that I talk to on a daily basis that would be able to have an in-depth conversation like we are right now. So my purpose is more, I guess, macro in that sense. And as far as, so the issue of having, I guess, a relationship, like losing a child or having, I don't know, or having some, loss or some type of damaging relationship that affects my immediate purpose. I don't really, I guess, use that as a marker for my purpose. My marker is very self-centered, I guess. So it's when I'm thinking about the things that I'm purposely supposed to do on this planet, it's more of, okay, am I receiving synergy from the universe, or are things aligning in a way for this thing to occur? Or is it like a struggle for it to occur? Like, am I feeling like I'm fighting everything to get this done? And not to say that challenges aren't used to elevate you, just it's different, based if it's a challenge or if you're just fighting just how life is supposed to go. It's kind of a different feel to it. So that's more so of how I use, I guess, life and things that happen as far as gauging if I'm on my purpose path or if I'm way off. It's not necessarily, I guess, a relationship to that. And I'm not exactly sure if, even with my child, and this is me being candid as well, even this is my first child, I'm not sure if I'm able to form that type of relationship to where, hold on, sorry.
Oh.
I'm not sure if I'm able to form that type of relationship to where my self and purpose is kind of at the top of the charts, if that makes sense. So of course, with him, I'm gonna do. Hold on, sorry. So of course, with him, I'm gonna do everything in my power to make sure that he has the best start and everything like that. But if at any point I feel that my relationship with him is conflicting or in contrast to what my purpose is on this planet, then some type of changes will have to occur.
Like what? How? So give us an example. How? Because you're saying that your son, do you have a girl or a boy, Sammy?
A boy.
A boy.
So are you saying that your purpose isn't tied to your son? Yeah. Is it tied to your son? Yeah, and if a conflict was to happen,
it's not.
She just explained that it's not.
If so my purpose isn't tied to. No, so
it's not tied to your son. No,
he may be. No, my purpose is not tied to my son. He may play an important role in it, or he may be a part of it, but he's not the purpose. And he's not the main purpose. And so what I'm saying is, if he were to come in conflict, like with that purpose, we'll have to figure out how to make changes, I guess, to make sure that my purpose is what is achieved, if that makes sense. So to me, my purpose on this planet is more important than the relationship with my child.
Yeah.
So that's short. That.
My mum would agree with your point.
Your motivation for living your purpose. That means that your motivation for living your purpose fluctuates then. So it's not necessarily the purpose that changes. It's the overall purpose that changes. It's more the motivation to achieve your purpose changes, or the things that can conflict you living your purpose changes.
I just got that it's bigger than
the it's
people and things.
Mm-hmm. That's what I got.
Yeah. So my purpose. Yeah. So my purpose is bigger than this timeline, this life that I'm living. Yeah. This current.
I get what you mean.
Sequence of events that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get what you mean, because like the other day my son was going on full. I said, right about now you're gonna come out because you're fucking with my purpose.
I think I think what Shay
so,
is where I'm aiming to get to, basically.
Yeah.
Prior to everything that's just happened, I didn't realise there was so much of my drive and motivation was tied into when I have my children, I'm going to pass it on to my children. I didn't realise it was so snapped in that until universe went, wiped it.
Took it away, yeah.
What you're going to do now, love, basically. Is what happened. It's like, oh, I didn't even know that was my story. You know what I mean? So,
I was going to say, that's what I meant about, you know, Shay, when you just mentioned that, you explained it so much more eloquently, because that's sort of what I was trying to allude to when I said, obviously, I don't have children now, like I haven't had children, so I don't know whether that would change, but I definitely know the way I've been nurtured is the way you've just described, because that's how my mum is. And my mum's always been like that, in the sense that, and I know sometimes my mum spoke on how it's been misunderstood as well, because obviously, you know, we are her world as her children, but my mum is like, whether we're there or not, that what my mum does to this day, I mean, Alicia knows a lot more about my mum and her background because she's a researcher and things, and whether she had us, we were part of that journey, but we weren't the purpose, and we still aren't, but that's okay, because we understand it. But I think sometimes,
and I don't think,
and
I
so
don't
that's why
think
it really
that,
spoke to me what you were saying.
And I don't think that it means that I love him any less than someone whose purpose is surrounded, you know, around their children. I think it's just that I have a different. I think it's just that I have a different understanding of things, and that's one reason why, like I mentioned before, I am in isolation when it comes to the people around me, because they just don't understand how I relate to them, as far as, yes, they're important to me, but there's something more important than this relationship, period.
I would say,
and so that can come off sometimes as harsh. Go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, I
sometimes
recommend you carry on that way, because my mum was very misunderstood for a long time, and then now it was her, like, I don't want to go, but the people close, nearest and dearest, there was a lot of misunderstanding. So, for example, does she just care about doing this research stuff? What about, you know, what's supposed to be important? But now it's done full circle, and they understand. So I think in time, what's supposed to be right in a line will.
Yeah,
I get it, and one of the things that's forced me to get it is that, because obviously I'm having to just think so deep about stuff even more so now, was I was forced to make that it's not a detachment. I was forced to kind of step more into your depth, Shay, because, and it's even part of why I'm coping so well, because I've had to go there, because it's like, that's why I can just talk so free about him, because like when people say to me, like, how are you doing so well? And I'm just like, he left, and that's why I always use the word he left as well. He left because his purpose was bigger than me, his dad, and everybody else around him. I says, as much as I brought Judah here, he never came here for me. It's none of my business. So when he's, you know, achieved what he needed to achieve in such a short amount of time, that's his journey, you know what I mean? And I've had to get to that space and that understanding of his purpose. His purpose was whatever, mummy, you know, it's not about you. It's not about you, you know what I mean? And so therefore, me understanding his purpose and his journey and, you know, what the impact he's had also has kind of forced me into the space of, hold on, well, he wasn't here for me type of thing, so hold on. So I'm not here for you either. And that's why, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So get it? Yeah. So I totally understand where you're coming from. Because I understand
and
the
one
dynamic
of
that, yeah, it's helping me with my...
And it's interesting that you say what you're saying, because like I said, even with Shay, I very much lived in isolation because I was detached from my family members. And like I said, so my thing was just very much like self motivation, and I'm very good at kind of understanding that my purpose is different to the children's purposes as well. However, I think recently I started to, because I've got so much people now in my life who respect my purpose, it's like I appreciate, and I've been observing how much them being aligned to my life actually is a part of my purpose. And that's not something that I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it, but I can see how I was living in that isolation, but it's because I had bad relationships with other people. I had bad relationships with my family and my friends and things like that. So I had to have that detachment. But recently, that attachment has become healthy. So it's like I'm starting to think, oh, actually, I can come out of isolation of just being my own motivation and whatever. But I know I can detach when I need to, kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know. And I think the same for you as well, Alicia. I think the same for you. Like you said, you know, you had a cognition around your purpose and you recognized it, and yeah, now you just need to go back into that isolation and that of being self-motivated again. And it's okay to have different things come along and be a motivation. That's my stable data. And sometimes I have to be my own motivation, and sometimes I can be motivated from the things around me.
Yeah, I think a part of that is being okay with the shifts, you know, that occur. Like sometimes you walk around with a certain ideology, and at some point you get to a certain amount of growth and you don't need that. So you need to, you know, ascend or evolve to a different type of ideology. And certain things like a death of a child or loss of a job or things like that, they come along, you know, as stimulus to project us to that, because I guess the universe is like, okay, you're taking too long to get it. So something happens for you to, I guess, to push you into that direction. And so that change of what you're doing or why you're doing it or how you're doing it even, I think is necessary to get to that full, you know, embodiment of what you're put here to do.
Yeah, sometimes those things have to occur to create that shift that's required, isn't it?
I'm from this conversation, I'm seeing I need to stay in my macro understanding, my macro reasoning is what I've taken from this conversation, because I've always had the distinction of the macro and the micro, but I'm seeing how the micro is actually, as Sereena just said, it's unstable. The macro is actually where the stability is. So I think if I stay in that space, I'll be all right.
It's like top-down thinking.
Right.
You know, it's almost like the macro is almost like that overriding perspective, and it's the strategy, it's the vision. And then the deeper down you get into it, the more tactical it becomes. So of course, on a personal level, that's where things can and will shift more frequently than it should up here, because that's where the purpose is aligned. If we're to kind of think of it in that way.
Definitely. So I definitely. Bye.
We'll just say hello.
Hello.
Bye.
Hi.
I think I need to just, definitely just stay in my space. I ain't coming back to Earth. That's enough motivation. Keep me rolling. Ain't coming back here.
And it's like anything, Leash, you know, like as and when you need to talk or flesh things out, or what you know you've got close, nearest and dearest people you can tap into as well.
Of course, yes. As you all know, I forever talk, definitely. But I will encourage more conversations like this, because sometimes it's as much as people can ring off my phone and we're chatting on the phone, sometimes it's just nice to see you. And the group chat is nice to see you all as well. It's actually, this is actually a really nice exchange, and I think because there's many other things that I do need to talk about, you know what I mean? That, is not apparent. It really is apparent to people out here, and it's more even driving me to do what I said I'm going to do in terms of my TED talk. Just even this conversation has motivated me even more in terms of getting deeper with myself in this part of my journey and sharing, because no one shared. This is the thing, you know. But just to kind of slide over to another point that's completely unrelated to what we're talking about, but because I'm sharing, I'm going to upload. You know, I went and saw mine and Shezzy's good friend from yonder, long time, Marlene. I was with Marlene last week, and Marlene was lost at one at her baba as well. I'm just updating the other two. But she had a stillbirth.
Yeah.
So me and Marlene having our conversation and just relating, and I shared with Marlene something that I'm going to have to do for the rest of my life that nobody else has thought of, probably even, you know, even considered, is that I am forever going to have to say, when people say to me, do you have any children? I'm forever going to have to say, yes, I have a son, but he's passed. Because I'm never going to say no, but at the same time, I can't just say yes, you know what I mean? And as much as that could be a simple sentence to the average person, when you actually really that sentence, it's so deep, and it's something I'm going to have to say for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? And I think it's sort of things like this that I need to share, definitely, because people would never have thought about that.
Gosh.
I think to your point of sharing, I think with all of the social media platforms that we have, I think there isn't a lack of sharing. I think there's a lack of sharing truthful things or being authentic, because people, you know, they share things that they think other people want to see, or what's entertaining, or what will get the most likes and everything, but they're not sharing things that they're going through, or things that or even things that could even be helpful for the next, you know, human to understand or get through. So if people shared more things of that context, I think the planet will be better off, instead of sharing, you know, the silly things.
Yeah, and this is what I don't think I've updated you on this show. I don't know if I said to you that I'm going to do a TED talk. That's part of one of my plans for this year. I'm actually going to do my application to do a TED talk on this, because as you all know, I've had to, prior to everything that happened with Judah, I've had to deal with stuff in terms of Nana and dementia and Alzheimer's in my family. It's just next level. It's not one person. It's not two people. It's not three people. It's not four people. You know what I mean? There's a count of dementia in my family. It's no joke. And so my inspiration was to share what the families have to go through in terms of somebody you love whose memory is just, you're seeing their memory erase to the point where somebody you love dearly can look you in your face and not know who you are. You know what I mean? The impact that this type of thing is having on people, and dementia is spreading rapidly. So I wanted to do a TED talk on that. Then I lost my son. So then you know, that's another thing to talk about. So I'm literally trying to find a way of kind of bringing that together to share an awareness of, I think I'm thinking on the lines now of like finding your happy through trauma, or staying happy through grief, because I could say there's grief attached to dementia, even though our family is still, they're alive, they're here with us, but we're still grieving them, because we're grieving the slow loss of a person.
Yeah, the loss of their memory of you.
Yeah, well, and then their memory of.
And then everything. What comes to mind is in terms of linking. I don't know if this resonates, but them losing their memory, and then with Pujol not being able to create memories.
Boom, Sereena. Thank you for that. That's gangster. Thank you. Yeah. So, you know, that's part of the work I now need to do, man, seriously. So that ties into what you're saying, Shay, in terms of being on a more authentic platform. That's why I'm more geared towards doing a TED Talk rather than, I can be out here on social media talking, but that's not really my initial.
No, there needs to be a purpose behind it.
and it would be a big purpose if they grant me to get on that platform. That's a serious thing. So, you know, that's my aim for this year. I will be doing my application in the next couple of weeks, and we see how I get on.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing with us, you know, Leash, because it's a difficult topic, and I appreciate being a part of your journey in regards to it. It's admirable. I think I've told you a few times, and I'm happy that I can be here as a part of the healing process, even if it's just listening or joining the Zoom calls, or, you know, because obviously these experiences are provoking these conversations, and it's important for us to be there in order for you to express them in a meaningful way with people you trust. So thanks for allowing me to be a part of that.
Thank you for listening, people. Thank you for being there for me. Like, I see who my rocks are, you know what I mean? I see you all. I see you and beyond the people who didn't make it into this room. Like, I see who's about me, and I see who's frauds, you know what I mean? I see where my love's coming from, and I see where I need to send my love back. So, yeah, man, it's real. I appreciate you all. So thank you.
Aww.
Anybody else got anything else to say? If not, I'm going to go make my green tea.
Those last two statements are just beautiful.
I know.
It just made me feel so. I was like, oh, to break that in a script, that's so profound. That's really beautiful. It just shows the power of positive sharing. I'm really glad you set this up, Alicia. It's really nice.
Yeah. So I look forward to the next thoughts you have that you want to chat about.
Well, everyone, you know, anyone.
No, I know. True.
I just get the ball rolling, man. This is open to everybody. It's man, it's sharing.
Yeah. I think I've sort of to be honest, I always think of things. To be fair, I should just let you know that let's talk. What do you think about talking about this particular topic or whatever? Yeah.
I think, you know what, actually, what you highlighted within this conversation that we could have as a topic is, as you were saying, in terms of male influence in your life. And this is both for males and females, because I very much resonated with what Shes was saying, and it's become quite apparent to me.
Say that again, sorry.
Years. I said I resonated with Shez's stance because I had real strong males in my life growing up, solid, and they're still around now. You know what I mean? And, you know, I feel like that is something that needs to be discussed, because I only just in the past few years actually realised how much of a blessing and how much of a gift they are in terms of...
It's true, you know.
My character and my person has been shaped for you to see... me here today. Like, me here today is not just women, like,
no, definitely. To be fair, even with myself, you know, the fact that I don't know who my dad is kind of made me warm to men in a way where I was intrigued by them, because I didn't have my own father to see into. I'm not saying that's just how I got to, you know, understand and appreciate male energy. Through the absence of a father, and not that my father didn't want to be around, it was just that I don't know who he is, and I can honestly say that it's the men who have supported me in my life, even like consciously, of late, over the past 2 years, when I really, like, me and my mom's relationship was completely destroyed. That's what made me see how much the men really stood up. I mean, the amount of men that have been like, no, sir, your mother should tell you, and they'll come with me to go and find out this geezer who it might be, and they sit there brainstorming, thinking.
Can we hold that thought for this conversation?
Sorry.
That was an awesome preview. Huh?
No, it says it's beautiful that I think, you know, what I'm learning, especially from you, Alicia, and you, Serena, it's very important to be open. I'm not that open. Like, don't get me wrong, when I'm doing this, I'm like thinking, damn. Like, but that's such a good thing. It's a good thing. I really admire that.
But yeah, Lish, we will do that one day.
Next time
we'll do that one day.
You can leave that. There you go. We've just had a preview of what's to come.
Thanks.
That's the trailer.
I was like, oh, okay.
I know. I saw Shay's like.
All right, beautiful people. To be continued. So, yes, this is the start of many awesome chats to come. So.
And thank you for being so awesome, ladies. I just want to say that my boyfriend, right, was supposed to go about his business, and he just left. And I know he was freaking impressed with the fact that me and my mates, even though I didn't met you, Shay, or you, Shay, but I've chatted to Shay before on one of the other calls, and he's impressed. I heard him on the phone in the hallway going, "No, blood, it's about talking real, blood. It's about talking real." And like, this is why I talk to you, fam, because you open up and you talk, blood. I was like, oh. No, but it's fully impressive. Yeah, there's not a lot of women, you know, we're special because there's not a lot of women out there that are like us, you know. So rate yourself.
Yeah, man. Aww. Love you all, people.
You too.
Wonderful.
Thank you guys for
coming.
Bye.
The lady across the pond.
Be blissful.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.